Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Conditioning Podcast. In this episode, we discuss opportunities and mindset relating to achieving goals. Please give us your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy.
What's going on?
Not much. How are you, Berto? How was your New Year's?
My wife and I, we just spent it alone. We went on our rooftop and clapped in the new year with all the neighbors. What about you?
Yeah, we went out to dinner. Barely hung out. Made it till midnight. I was falling asleep on the sofa. Just me, the wife and the son. And
yeah, I mean, it felt like a regular day, if anything. It's just 2021. We're all kind of skeptical or really hesitant to really welcome in the new year. So didn't feel any different, but I definitely have a lot to look forward to. So what about you?
My stance on days being more special than another. I think every day has, I know, as a matter of fact, that every day has the same potential to do great things. I firmly stand by that. And I get it. We look for milestones, we look for events to kind of focus our energy and to put new things into motion. But you shouldn't have to wait on a particular date or a particular circumstance in order to do the thing that you want to do to improve yourself or to make your life better or just to make yourself happy. That's my stance. And I think with everything we have going on right now out in the world as it is, there's still a lot of things to be positive about, to be grateful for, to be thankful for. And there's still plenty of opportunities around to do things to make your life better or make yourself better, rather.
That sounds great. I have been looking at books this past year, 2020. I was looking at a list of the top self-development books or self-improvement books in 2020. And one that really stuck out to me was Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it. Great book. It's by James Clear. Really, he sets up the book like a system where you can improve your habits and really accomplish any goal setting that you may have, any goal settings that you set. He really places an emphasis on trying new things, new challenges, and we all know that's really important. But in this book, he has 4 principles by which he lives by. All right, so he has actually 4 laws that he actually writes in this book that everyone should follow to build better habits. And the first one is to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. Really, what I want to touch on with you, Ash, is reaching our goals by bettering our habits here. So, Ash, why are opportunities important?
Let me give you just one quick thing on opportunity. What is an opportunity? Right, an opportunity is the option or something a condition presenting itself or circumstance presenting itself to you that you can grow from. So opportunities come in all different shapes, sizes, and they come in different, it's not just someone knocking on your door saying, hey, you want to go do this job or you want to go do this thing. It could be something very subtle. It could be you going to, doing some mundane thing that you normally do, like going shopping or something. And there's an opportunity for you to be a kind person, letting someone else go in front of you. Or there's many different levels to opportunities and things, but the real skill you have to develop is looking at every scenario, every situation as a potential for growth, as an opportunity. That's really when you start to really shift your mindset, stop looking for opportunities and special occasions, but looking for opportunity in everything happens for a reason. There's an exact science to it in that there's always an opportunity presented to you, and your ability to react or act the way that aligns with you rather. That's really the challenge there, or that opportunity, the value in that opportunity will be revealed when you act a certain way or react a certain. So for example, and this has probably happened to you, I'm sure it has, a circumstance has unfolded and you reacted to it in a certain way. And maybe later reviewing your reaction, like, maybe it wasn't the best reaction. I'm not really too crazy about that reaction that I made, right? Or on the other side of that is, I reacted in a way, or I acted in a way that I wanted to act. Every little thing, even that little thing, like a person, you're driving, right? You get to a stop sign. There's a person about to cross, walking. Now, you have enough time to kind of roll through that stop sign and gun it, right? Or you could just wait like 2 to 3 seconds and let this person cross. What version of yourself do you want to present at that time? Now, there may be a situation where maybe you did do that. Maybe you didn't wait for that guy to pass and you drove through it, and maybe you didn't even think about it. Sometimes when you actually just stop, I'm like, all right, what's 3 seconds of letting somebody go? So I know that sounds kind of mundane, but those are little things that occur in our life, with opportunity. So in order to really delve in or really see opportunity, you have to develop an awareness first for opportunities presenting themselves. So you have to really kind of get in that mindset to look at, this is the kind of person I am. These are my fundamentals. These are my virtues. This is the person I want to be. Now, every opportunity that presents itself to me today, am I going to act like that person? Am I going to be that person, that version of myself, if you will? And other things align with opportunity as well. Like we talk about bigger goals, setting goals and things like that, and opportunities that align with that. But we talk about habits, you talk about things like mindset. Those are all things that kind of come together. You can't be that person that wants to be achieving a particular goal. It's a whole bunch of little things you have to do in conjunction with it.
You mentioned that opportunities are very much in line with habits and habit forming. In this book, he writes, the more attractive an opportunity, the more likely it is to become habit forming. Can you give an example of an opportunity that will develop into a habit forming or...
Okay, so I'll give you a very simple one. I want you to think about this. If your goal is to be a kinder person, just to be happier, okay? So you want to be kinder to people, you want to be nicer to people. So through the course of your day, you have a multitude of opportunities to act in that manner, to be kind. So like the simple scenario of going to the grocery store or just walking across the street, being kind to a person. So being conscious, or being aware rather, that's the same thing as being conscious, being aware of that mindset, that person you want to be, right? And then you interact with someone. So you go to the grocery store, the cashier rings you up, and you greet them, you say a nice thing to them, you say thank you, and just being polite, being kind. Maybe you don't do that all the time. Or maybe, you're going to the store, and you see this a lot in the city and urban areas, people just kind of hustling and rushing to places, right? That person, you ever get to that place, Alberto, where you're about to walk into the store, someone else is going in at the same time as you, and they're not going to let go. And you're like, people kind of like want to just kind of rush in front of each other. It's just like, let that person go. You start to develop. Now it seems very mundane what I'm talking about, but those are opportunities. You're constantly engaging with people. You can yield. One of the things that I wrote, I have this thing in my morning prayer, right? And one of the lines I write is, I will demonstrate my strength by yielding to others. I think that's a very powerful way to look at life where, listen, everybody goes in this competition mode and I got to dominate. I got to be the first one here. I want to be and they're not looking at the bigger picture of, hey, what does it really mean to be humble, to yield to someone else's? Listen, I was in line. This is before COVID. It was like a middle of a week. I took a day off. I went to some store. I was just, putzing around. I was just off. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday or 11 o'clock in the morning at this retail store down in Long Island. There was one cashier. There was like slow. There was nobody there. There was one cashier there. And one person in front of me, I was the next person in line. There was a person in front of me at the register doing like a return, paying in nickels. I don't know what she was doing, but it was taking forever. This lady behind me, she's just started like huffing and puffing. I can't believe this. They can't get another person on the register. And I'm sitting there. It's like, it's Wednesday. It's a Tuesday or Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Where you don't need to be in the store buying whatever the hell it is you're buying. It's obviously, so if your time is that sensitive. So what I did, I was just like, hey, you want to go next? I was like, yeah, just go ahead. It's not that big of a deal. And she's like, I can't believe they only have one person. I said, it's okay. Go ahead. But it's one of those things where you start to see other people living in this idea or that set, and you can see where they're headed. And is that a person I want to be? Is that the habit I want to have? To be in such a rush that I can't wait 3 seconds for someone to cross the street, or I have to be the next one online, or I have to do this. Those are little habits you can make by looking at those opportunities and seeing them. That's on a smaller scale. I mean, you could do it on a bigger scale too. When you talk about opportunity, there's an opportunity every day for you to grow and improve and take care of your health and do that. So when you start doing those things that benefit, if you have bad eating habits, for example, and you want to convert them to good eating habits, there's opportunity every single moment of the day to either eat less or replace this meal with this one. When you start seeing the progress, the growth from changing your habits, shifting your habits from bad to good, then you can start developing, continuing that trend, right? Because what essentially makes a habit? What makes a habit is a perpetuated action. But with the perpetuated, in order for you to create that perpetuated action, you have to have perpetuated thought. In order for you to create that perpetuated thought, you got to change your mindset. So you can't create a new habit with an old mindset. You can't create a new version of yourself with an old mindset. You have to change your mindset. And that, in a lot of ways, is very, very difficult because the body wants to drag you down. It wants to hold you down. It's like an anchor. It's going to hold on to your wrap its arms around your leg and be like, no, let's stay here. This is cool, man. It's comfortable. I don't want to do this. It's, those are some of the things that you can get from
Back to opportunities. James Clear, he writes that some opportunities are better than others. And that includes habits, or some habits better than others. And it's really ultimately understanding your personality. He gives an example of a person who has an addiction tendency. So he watches hours of television, right? This person has the opportunity to take drugs, and that isn't a good opportunity, right? In his book example, but this is understanding your personality. So knowing that you watch television, knowing that you have this sort of addiction or addiction personality, it's probably not a good opportunity for you to take such or said drug. Ash, can opportunities be ranked or classified better than others in your view?
Let's talk about what is an opportunity. It's giving you the option to make a decision. That's what an opportunity is. So you can, when a situation or a condition or circumstance manifests that you have, now you can call it an opportunity to say, all right, how am I going to react to this? You can react to it in a negative way. You can react to it in a positive way. A bad thing, it can be an opportunity for growth, or it could be an opportunity for negation, right? For progression. And you have to look at it that way. So you have to, it goes back to mindset. It goes back to the type of person you are is going to determine your actions and reactions when an opportunity, or just forget the word opportunity. Let's just call it a situation where you have to make a decision. Okay, you have to choose. Go back to like you're saying, or a guy plays video games, right? Or watches Netflix. What's another thing people do when they watch these shows? They eat crappy food. They sit there and eat, chips and all this other junk while they're watching TV. Those are choices that you have to make. Am I going to sit? Am I watching the show? Is it beneficial for me? Am I angry with myself? Am I distracting myself from doing stuff that I'm supposed to do? Or is this something I really enjoy doing? Okay, whatever that answer is, when you start making choices that eventually that aren't helping you, and you're aware that it's unhealthy or not helping you, that's not a good thing. Every person has free will, right? Everyone has the capacity to choose whichever way they want to go. The individual has to, what's going to drive your choices, your choice selection is going to be the type of person that you are, the mindset that you have. There are certain things that I will not do because it's not that I wouldn't enjoy those things. I just don't want to do them because I've made that decision not to do those kinds of things. That's the type of person I am. Now, that's not an overnight process. It's something that you have to gradually kind of, reprogram yourself to do. But it's, like I said, it's gradual. Like, for example, if you're trying to stop eating crappy food, it's hard to just stop cold turkey anything. So what might be the thing you do? All right, I'm not going to go out to eat for another week because it's too tempting. I'm going to get all the junk food out of the house because it's too tempting, until you essentially remove that option because you don't trust yourself enough, until you get to that habit form. The habit is formed and the discipline is built. So that way, whenever the stuff presents itself, you're not going to touch it. Yeah, I don't like to consider a negative opportunity. It's a bad choice. It's a bad choice. A good choice is a good choice. The opportunity presents itself. You can either make a good choice or you can make a bad choice. So that's really the differentiation I would put on. I would say if an opportunity presents itself, you can either make the good choice or the bad choice. So here's an opportunity. A guy offers you drugs, right, for free. They'll get you high as hell, right? The good choice would be, all right, I'm not going to do that. I don't need it. The bad choice would be, all right, I'm going to take it and I'll potentially get addicted to the stuff and whatever else. So the opportunity is there. And if you make the right choice, that's going to start a habit forming. The second you make one choice, that's the first step in creating a habit. If you continually make that choice, regularly, perpetuate that choice, then the habit starts to form. Does that make sense, Berto?
It does. You mentioned mindset.
Yes.
Would you say it's a series of systems? Because in the book, he writes that you are not successful just because you had a once in a lifetime experience where you did something amazing. That it is a series of small choices to success. So for a person who makes a 1% improvement in their day every day for the rest of the year, I think he comes down to saying that at the end of the year, you have improved 30%. And this can be applied to any single task. So if you're looking to study for med school, if you improve 1% in studying, then at the end of the year, you should see a 30% increase in output. This can be, again, applied to eating better, making choices, putting vegetables in your plate first, and then continuously improve each day 1%, whatever that subjective 1% is. a series of systems to improve on your daily goals and then ultimately your year. And this is a series of systems. Ash, do you think this is valid?
Absolutely. So in order to change mindset, especially, and it depends on the degree of change that you're looking at. So if you're absolutely sedentary, you don't do anything, you're very overweight. I'm just using the physical example, but there could be, I can use litany of analogies here, but this one seems to be pretty easy to understand. If you're very sedentary, you're overweight, et cetera, et cetera. You can't go and run a marathon tomorrow. You can't just, your body's going to go into shock. You have to do gradual, depending on how far you are from your destination, you're going to have to slowly make incremental changes. The thing is, that's the way you make the mindset change, is you have to prove it to yourself in a sense. You have to prove it in order for you to anchor the habit. You have to kind of prove it to your subconscious mind. You got to build it in your subconscious mind and then start making it part of your programming. And the easiest way to do that without creating too much shock and fear and all this other stuff is to incrementally do it. Okay. Now, everybody's going to be a little bit different in their process, because what's going to be the driving factor? There are people that make almost overnight changes because they have a life-threatening incident occur, or they had a family member that passed away because of something, or a friend that passed away because of something that was preventable, which in the case of most health situations, I mean, you perpetuate your health throughout the course of your life. So in a certain sense, anything can be preventable. Health is something that, you can essentially work on all the time. But there are certain things that'll happen that'll drive a person in a different way. But the main thing is you have to find a way to change your mindset, and that's going to be gradual. It's essentially, you're breaking a mold of yourself that's very firm. So if you've been this way, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 25 years old or 45 years old, if you've been acting this way for a considerable amount, or doing this thing for a considerable amount of time, it could be 5 years, it could be 1 year. It's hard to get out of that. If you went down slope in a year, it's a lot harder to get out of that, even if you were healthy. But something happened, a life situation occurred, a circumstance occurred, you did not adapt to that very well, and you start to decline, whether it be physical health, mental health, emotional wellness. You're not going to get out of that right away. So you have to try to find ways to get out of it. And like some of those steps I mentioned, one of them being, incremental changes, getting away from that stuff that you don't have the self-discipline to control yourself yet. So those are some of the things. And that's how you start to adjust the mindset. The mindset, it starts with the desire, the goal. If you don't have the goal, then you're not going to be able to create the mindset. A lot of people make the resolutions, or they make this thing, I want to lose weight, but they have no plan. They have no idea. They follow something half-heartedly. They don't really go into it all the way. They don't really commit to it. You have to change your lifestyle through your changing your mindset first. It's that you've heard of this too, Berto, where someone says, I'm not on a diet. This is my lifestyle. This is how I eat now. This is not something where I'm going to do this for 30 days and then go back to eating like a slob again. This is my lifestyle now. I eat this. This is the type of food I eat. This is these are the habits that I've created. So when you get to that, you want to get away from doing things. I'm going to do this temporarily to make myself better. No, you want to. There should be no end planned in sight. A habit is something you continually do. That becomes part of you. That becomes the definition of you. Or better yet, not the definition of you, the expression of who you want to be. That would be more what I would define a habit as, in a larger sense. And the other thing too, when you look at the mindset, and I'll use myself as a personal example. When I first got on this thing for fitness and everything else, for me, it was, I needed it to kind of ground myself. And then once I started going down that path, I noticed other things that I wanted to improve as well, because I saw the benefit of, hey, I'm doing this thing for an hour a day. I'm really focusing on this. And I started to see the benefits there. And I started to look at, all right, I want to change my diet. I want to change this. I want to change the way I'm learning, the way I'm studying, the things I'm focusing on. So you start to see those other things, those other avenues start to open up. And that mindset starts to grow stronger, this new mindset that is. And then you start becoming more aware of those things that negate that mindset. I want to be this type of person. So you have a goal. After you develop that goal or come to that goal, the thing you have to start to formulate in your head is, what version of myself is going to be achieving that goal? And do I possess the habits now that will constitute that person? And that's where you have to start making that shift in mindset. That's what's going to help you start.
So James Clear writes that the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different to say, I'm the type of person who is this. And a good example was brought, the avid cyclist. I myself, I bike to work, right? But there's people who want to start to bike to work or start something, right? And I'm going to use me as an example. It's one thing, I can't just go out and bike 40 miles one time in a year and then forget it, because that's not a habit. That's not habit forming. That's just one thing I do, and then I might forget about it. Small steps, just biking 1 mile a day, or biking to and from work without any extra activity, and then improving each day and telling myself that I'm not just a one-timer. I've really made biking part of my identity. It's not just something that I just do. I just bought a bike. I have bought the tools to fix the bike myself. I have made it part of my daily routine. Ash, can you give me an example of how you've made something your identity?
Listen, I agree with them 100%. I would use slightly different phrasing. I don't like that word motivation, because it's motivation is a component of. Motivation is something that's driving you. All right, it's more like the fuel in the car. The commitment, the goal is what you're motivated towards, and that goal is intrinsic. That's where whatever that subject is needs to be intrinsic, meaning it has to be yours. You have to own it. It has to be unconditional. It has to be something that you identify with. I agree with that. Yes, absolutely. You have to say, I am this, not that I want that. You think about it this way. This is the way I look at it. My running thing that I do, or whatever it is that I do, that's a habit for me. I can't imagine a day that I would get up and not run, and not do my run. I don't know how I would function. I've had like night terrors where I'd get up in the middle of the night having like a dream that I didn't get to run today, like something happened. Like you said, that's something that becomes part of me. Now, it doesn't have to be to my level of doing it every day and I'm gonna, whatever, but it has to be something that it becomes part of you, becomes part of your identity, in that this is something that I do, not because you want to identify with it in the sense you want to be better than someone else or anything else, but it's a component that you need for yourself to be the full version of you, or to benefit you, because you see the benefits of it. So a good habit that you form is, and that you look at it with intrinsic motivation, if you will, using Mr. Clear's definition, it's coming from within yourself. And the stronger that anchor is, it's not even an anchor anymore, it's part of you. It becomes one of the pillars of your existence, the pillars of who you are. That's when it has real strength. That's when it has that capacity to really to make you better.
So why do people fail at achieving their goals? Are they the problem, or is it their system that they've developed these habits with the problem?
So what it is, it's very simple. It's just not that important to you. If something's important enough to you, you're going to find a way to execute to get to that goal. I don't care what it is. You're going to find, if it's not important enough to you, you're not going to get it done. That's it. Because here's the thing. Here's the analogy I'll use. If I told you, hey, tomorrow I want you to go run 10 miles, you might flake out. You may say yes, but tomorrow you might flake out, right? But if I told you, hey, tomorrow I want you to run 10 miles. I don't care if you even run. I want you to traverse with your legs 10 miles. And I want you to try your best to run it as much as you can. But if you can't, I don't want you to hurt yourself. I want you to try and traverse 10 miles with your feet. And if you do, I'm going to give you $1 million. Are you going to do the 10 miles tomorrow? I'm pretty sure you would.
$10 million.
For $1 million. Even if it was $100,000, would you do it? I'm pretty sure you would. $10,000, I would do it. I mean, the point is, what's the difference between scenario A and scenario B? Scenario A just said, do the 10 miles. I don't care how you do it. The second one, I said, do the 10 miles and I'll give you a reward. I'm giving you. So the second scenario, people will say, yeah, I'll do that. Of course, they're going to do that because you're going to give me $1 million. It's just not important enough to you. That's the reason why someone doesn't fulfill their goal. You can go listen to habits. Listen, if it's important enough to you, you're going to find the habits. If it's important enough to you, you're going to find the resources. If it's important enough to you, you're going to do the research. You're going to do the learning. You're going to get whatever it is you need to get it. That's it.
What about, all right, so let me give you a different scenario. What about a student or a person that has to achieve a goal in order to move forward? So let's say, again, let's just use a person in pre-med who has to pass the biology or chemistry, whatever have you, whatever class. Do you think that their goals that they've set are too difficult? Have they maybe perhaps overextended themselves so that they can't reach their micro goals?
Okay, so it can be that. It could just be simply this. A person can achieve a goal, but there are some requisites there. You have to be able to make the proper adaptations in order to achieve that goal. Some people can make those adaptations easier than others. Other people just get to a point where they can't adapt anymore and they throw the towel. Okay, so that's that old adage, anybody can do anything. No, anybody can't do anything. Because if everybody could do anything, then everybody would do all those things that they aspire to do. It doesn't matter when you throw the towel in or why you throw the towel in. But you throw it in, you throw it in. The key thing to remember is you can always do something else. You don't have to do that one thing. Or there were people that were so determined that it took them a while, but they got through it. They may have failed that biology test 2 or 3 times, maybe changed schools or whatever, but there are people that have done that, drove through it. They just had to find their process that worked for them. It's not a matter of, it's impossible for me. There's a degree of adaptation that's required. Not everyone can adapt to do that. No matter how much I would practice basketball, I'm not going to make the NBA. There are some things that you have to, come to terms with and understand that you could have a strong burning desire to do something and you could do it to you, literally to your heart almost explodes. But that's the lesson. That's the lesson. It's like, well, you know what? Maybe I should shift my attention and do something else because this is not getting me the result I want. I can play basketball and love to play basketball and be fun and rec and all this other stuff. But if my goal is to be in the NBA, it's not happening. Could I be the best guy in the school year? Maybe. I don't know. Or the best guy in the over 40 league? Maybe. I could be, right? It depends on where your goal set is. Right? And you have to understand all those other factors that go into these things. You can't get too hardened on the outcome, really. The goal is to be successful in a particular field. You have to be able to have the awareness to know when opportunities are arising and opportunities are presenting themselves to say, all right, maybe this was the thing I wanted to do, but maybe because I'm seeing this is another option for me to go with. That's what we talked about before. That's your opportunity sometimes. We're talking about opportunities. You might be on the path to think, hey, I want to do this. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. And then you're going to do this thing. You're like, wow, I like this other stuff better. Then you start realizing, well, who am I? Who's that person asking they want to do this one particular thing? In some cases, people will bail out at the first step. Oh, this is hard. I'm not going to do it anymore. And that's done. Then there's other people who tried everything that they think they can try. That's the thing. When you say, oh, you tried this and it didn't work. Well, I tried a bunch of different ways. How many ways did you try? 3, 4? Is that it? That's all. You stopped at 4. You stopped at 5. There's the old analogy of how long would you, if you had a kid, Berto, right? And your kid started to walk, how long before you give up on them learning to walk? Before you're like, the kid, God, screw it. It's been 2 days. I can't. He's a week.
You're asking someone who doesn't have a child, so.
The point of the question is you're not going to stop. There's no parent that's going to stop.
Of course.
So the goal is, it doesn't matter how many times you try. It matters when you get it done. So when you stop, you stop. If it's not, and that's fine. You can be like, listen, this isn't this. I put more energy into this than I want. I'm going to shift my goal, my decision matrix. I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to shift my goal. I'm going to go do something else. That's fine. But don't sit there and be like, well, it just didn't work for me. You don't have to make any excuses about it. If you're done with it, you're done with it. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out. The Knicks didn't draft me. The Mets didn't take me because I tried to play baseball, or the Jets didn't. It doesn't matter. You give it up. You go on and do something else. If you tried something, it didn't work. It didn't meet your expectations. But there's value in that lesson. Learn that value and go move on to do something else.
Okay, so there is a point where you call it quits then, as far as your goals, is what you're saying?
You call it. You always have to have a goal. So when that one goal that you're trying to get doesn't pan out, you have to make a new goal. We are goal-seeking beings. We cannot function without goals. Now, people who live in mundane goals, they have their goals where they're not very big. That can be also like a detriment to them, where your goals aren't very big, so you're not very excited. You don't have not excited, you're not very enthusiastic about things happening because it's very mundane. Like most people, their goal is to get to Friday every week, just to get through the work week. That's a sad goal. Like if you sit down and ask a person, what are your goals? What are your long-term goals? What are your goals in life? Well, I'm going to work and then I got a good 401k and I get a thing and hopefully I can retire at 50 something and then I'll have enough money saved and I'll have a house and I have 401k. I'll be able to draw my retirement. Does that inspire you to live?
Absolutely not. No.
But that's where people are. You need to have goals that are going to make you work, that are going to make you think. When I say work, not toil your hands till your knuckles are bleeding, but make you take some inspired action. That's a good word. That's a good phrase for you. Inspired action.
Right.
That thing you're doing that you forget what time it is. You forget to eat. When's the last time you did something and you weren't like, time is relative. Einstein, when he was asked by his secretary, what is the theory of the relativity of time mean? He said 1 hour with a beautiful woman feels like a minute. 1 minute with your hand on a hot stove feels like an hour. So that's when you're doing something you enjoy, the time just fleets.
And just so our listeners here, right, that this is in fact a continuous process. There is no finish line, there is no permanent solution, and that small habits, they don't add up, they compound. What's so important about trying new things?
Well, you can't really get a new version of yourself until you do the new things, right? And sometimes, even if you don't have any interest in the thing, it's just good to try certain things, or try new things rather, because it gets you out of your comfort zone. If there was any habit that's really good habit to form outside of all the dietary health and learning and stuff, getting in the habit of getting outside of your comfort zone, getting to a place where you can say, oh, wow, you know what? I'm going to go try this thing. And even if you don't like it, that's fine. You learn something there, but there could be, out of the 60 minutes you spent doing something, you got 2 minutes like, oh, that's valuable to me. So it's good to try new things, and you want to get yourself in the habit of trying new things, because in the course of your self-development, of your new habits, your new mindset, these are going to be presented to you all the time. Even if you just say, hey, you know what, this week I'm going to try any new experience that presents stuff that's not immoral, illegal, or unsafe. That's a good way to kind of challenge yourself to do things. I created one myself. I'll tell you about in a second.
I just want to make sure that our listeners. So what if you're a stagnant person? What if let me give you a person who is introverted, maybe lives in the basement, mom's basement, or just simply is comfortable where they are. They're just comfortable. How do they choose a direction, or how do they find a way to go? Because a lot of people my age are simply lost. They can be lost, right? So how do you figure out if my 9 to 5 isn't satisfying enough and maybe I should pursue a business, or maybe I should pursue a different industry?
Okay, so the first thing you have to do with any person, you have to want to change. I can't walk into the basement and grab this kid by the neck and say, you're going to change your life now. That's not going to work. The individual has to want to change. Now, the pathway to change is almost the same for every single person. It's a degree of unhappiness. When you start to realize that you're unhappy with where you are, or dissatisfied with where you are, then that perpetuates for a while. And then eventually you're like, wow, I need to do something about this. So one of the things that you want to do is, one, change your routine, in the sense of stop doing the same stuff. Like start looking at who you want to be, or who you want to be like, or there's someone out there that you want to kind of follow or guide. There might be people in your life that are productive, and you say, hey, can you mentor me, or can you show me how to do this thing? So go with the path of least resistance where it goes there. There's tons of content out there with people that know how to do stuff. You listen, even if when you start podcasting, you start doing all these other things, you start getting on health and wellness, you start looking into entrepreneurship, there's tons of content out there already. There's tons of people out there that have this stuff that they're doing things that you might want to do. So find that person, find those people, and study them. There's a saying. Oh, let me back up for a second. And the people that you're hanging out with, the people that you're friends with, not saying that they're bad people, but you need to expand your audience a little bit, expand your exposure. Because there's a really good saying. It says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong goddamn room. You want to get to a place where you're getting challenged. The only way you're really going to get challenged is you got to go do some other stuff. You got to find that thing, that whatever it is that you want. You got to find people that are doing that and doing it well, and then either emulate them or talk to them or try to figure out what it is. So going back to your original point, the first step is you got to want to do it. You got to want to do the thing. All the resources are out there. If nothing else, now this day and age, 2021, it's a lot easier to get access to these resources than say 10, 15, 20 years ago. You have your phone. You have the most powerful thing in your pocket. You could research anything. And, people use it to watch kittens jumping out of boxes and shit. You have this tool here that you can say, think of a job. How do I open a pizzeria? I don't know. Just pull it up. You could tell me, you could Google that right now, Berto. You could write a report by tomorrow on 10 different steps you would need to open a restaurant. So it's not a matter of the resources not being available. They're available. It's the amount of work you got to put in and pulling yourself out of those distractions. So a guy like that buried in his basement and just goes to work, comes home, plays video games. If you want to change that, maybe you need to put the video games away for a little while, or maybe just don't change the atmosphere. Go to a different place. If you're going to go back, if you equate being in your room to playing video games, don't go to your room. Go somewhere else. Change the environment, change the atmosphere. Go find people. There are Facebook. I told you I'm new to social media. Right? I got on Facebook 2 days ago. They have all these rooms in Facebook, which you're like, whatever your hobbies and interests are. So there's one for like podcasts. There's one for pizzerias. There's one for restaurants. There's one for whatever. You can find stuff and get ideas. And there are people that are actually doing, not people selling anything, because they have rules. Like you can't sell, you can't advertise anything. But they'll be like, hey, what program works best for this? Does anybody have like a payroll service that they use, they recommend that works for them or didn't work for them? There's so much stuff out there. It's just a matter of you getting up and doing the work. You can still sit down. Just sit down and do that instead of sit down and play video games. If they made a video game on how to make a pizzeria, you'd probably play it and win. Going in and doing it on your own, it takes a little bit of a little bit of work, but it's really not that complicated. If you really want something, you can get it.
All right, so break it down for our listeners. All right, you've mentioned you have to sit down and study the person that you want to emulate or someone that you admire, right? So what does studying mean? What exactly does that entail?
Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could be a process. It's just what I'm trying to get at is there's whatever it is you want to do, there's somebody similar to, if not doing that exact thing, you're in a field very similar to that. So when I say study is you want to get into a way, just like you would exercise every day, you're studying every day is how you exercise your brain. So learning new things. And what does learning entail? Learning entails acquiring the information, understanding the information, and then finding how to apply it. Apply it as it's designed to be practically done in practical application. So, and when you start to study the thing, so studying may involve a considerable amount of the initial parts of learning, which is essentially getting the information and understanding it. Then when you start putting it into application, that's the challenge. That's the challenge you run into on occasion. And that's really the final step. If you're not putting anything in application, you're not really getting that learning process. Okay, it's just knowing. Knowledge is a tool. If you don't put it to use, it's worthless. So you can memorize every capital in the world, but if you're not doing anything with that knowledge that's going to benefit you, other than you just have it. I have Google. I don't need to memorize every capital in the world. I don't need to know all this mundane information. I need to know the information that's going to benefit me that I can practically apply. So that should be your goal. Schools don't really teach that much. And when I say that much, they don't teach that concept much. That the practical application of learning is the essential step in learning. When you do the thing, like if I give you a class on how to run and I give you shoe selection and I tell you what kind of foot type and pronation and overpronation and underpronation, but I don't put you out there and record you with your gait and your foot, your running, the way your running style, and then get you try on the right shoes. You're not really going to learn how to do this stuff. Learning ties into that application process. That's really what studying is. When someone says study that person, observe them, look at how they're doing, look at their mannerisms, look at all those things. And you don't have to be exactly like them, or you don't have to be exactly like the process you're reading. But there's value in there that you can pick apart what resonates with you. And that's really the goal. Pick apart those parts of whatever it is that you're studying, whether it be a person, whether it be a book, whether it be a manual process, and take the thing that resonates with you. How many different, I don't know this, but how many different payroll companies are there that do payroll for small business? 100, 1,000?
There's
God only knows. God only knows. I don't know. But why are there so many? They're all doing the same thing, right? Because they offer slightly different services and they cater to a specific type of need. That's why. How many different sandwich shops are there? How many different sandwiches are there? Everyone has a different taste in something. Stop trying to talk yourself out of it. This market's so diluted, it's so saturated, it's so this, or I can't do this, it's too hard. Okay. Well, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. Don't make excuses why you can't. Just shut up and sit down and go play your goddamn video game, or watch your Netflix, or do whatever it is you're doing. But if you want to do it, there's plenty of resources out there to do it. Here's one nugget of thought for you to have. You never need to justify why you're doing something to someone else, or why you're not doing something to someone else. Anytime you justify it, you rationalize it, the only person you're doing it for is yourself. Think about it. Listen, what you eat doesn't make me shit. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. If you want to do it, then do it. Because the reason why you do or don't do is simple. It's your choice. It's your choice. You don't need to provide that rationale to anybody else. You're doing it for yourself.
Thank you for listening to the Daily Conditioning Podcast. Please leave us your comments and remember, make growth your daily routine.